So when I started work back in the late 80s, if you'd have asked me about retirement then, I think I'd probably have told you that what I had in my mind would be that I would be sitting in the same office, a few of my work colleagues would gather around with a card and maybe a gift, and I'd wander off quite simply with my pension and live happily ever after. Little did I know, kind of 30 years on, that I've had 7 different employees, 7 different pensions, and the state retirement pension is pretty rubbish. The defined benefits pension that I had when I was 17, 18, what didn't turn out to be much at all because it didn't stay there very long. So things are a lot more complicated now. And I think things the same for a lot of us. Back in the late 80s, everyone we knew had kind of been in their job for life, and things did start to change a bit later on. But I think where we are now as we hit near retirement age is we've got 3 major questions. How much will I need to live on? That's question 1. What savings will I need? And how do I avoid running out? Okay, so for these questions, we have the 80% rule, the 375 rule, and the 4% rule. So what I wanted to do really is just run through these in a bit of detail, explain what they are. So how much do I need in retirement? A common way to do this is to get a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and a calculator and start writing down all the things that you spend. So electricity, gas, food, clothing, holidays, car. Just put a long list of everything that you spend and then add that all up and then say, well, that's how much I'm going to need in retirement. However, have you ever done that whilst you're working? I have a few times. And what I do is add it all up and say, okay, so I need X thousand pound, but I earn Y thousand pound, which is a lot more. Where does the rest go? So I don't really trust myself with that. Try it yourself. It's amazing how little you need when you write it down and then compare it to your bank balance and think, I don't know what I do with the rest of it. So to counter that, and for people who don't want to go through all that level of detail, there's a rule out there called the 80% rule, which says that when you retire, you should plan to spend about 80% of what you were spending before you retired. Okay, so that takes in the fact that you're not paying pension anymore. You might have some reduced travel needs if you, if you have to travel to work, that kind of thing. Now, I'm not sure I trust that rule, but that's one of the rules that's out there. So if you hear about the 80% rule, that will answer the question, how much will I need when I retire? Okay, so now we've worked out what we need, which is 80% of what we were earning before on the day retired or before we retired. So let's say that works out at £4,000 a month for a couple. That was the equivalent of what that's 80% of what we as a couple were earning. So if we take that £4,000 a month, multiply it by 375, that's the number that you'll need in your pot, in your savings pot. So that could be all your defined contributions added together, any ISAs, that kind of thing that you've been saving for retirement. Be a bit more complicated if you have defined benefit pensions, and you'll also need to work out what you think that state retirement pension is when you come to draw that will be in terms of a value. But 375 is generally the number. So at £4,000 per month, that will pop out a number of 1.5 million. Okay, so I've got my 1.5 million sitting in various pensions. And now, how do I make sure that that 1.5 million doesn't run out, that I don't spend it all too quickly? So this is the 4% rule. So what this basically says is, first year you retire, if you spend 4% of that pot, following year, adjust for inflation, spend 4% again. Following year, adjust for inflation, spend 4% again. Then that generally should last you through your retirement. So that's the general plan. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things behind that. How is the stock market performing? Them kind of things, which that simple figure doesn't take account in. But that's generally an accepted figure. So I hope none of them three figures have disappointed you or scared you too much. They're just out there really in the kind of pension industry. So if you are going to see a financial advisor about your pension planning, these could be three sensible questions to ask and get some more advice around that. So I hope you find this useful. If you have, press the like button and also subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.